Hello and welcome to this week's Market Watch here at Card Horizon, and 5 topics. 1, Pokémon Mega Evolution 4 and Greninja, making sure that there is going to be peak interest from the entire set. 2, Pokémon Ascended Heroes and its product allocation in Europe. 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and issues with product liquidity for vendors. 4, Riftbound Set 3, first spoilers and unprecedented power. And 5, Bandai speculative washout of the product versus special rare chase card prices. Now, before we get into it, please remember to drop a like, share, comment, and subscribe to be up to date with all the market trends here at Card Horizon. Now, let's get into topic number 1, which is Chaos Rising Pokémon Mega Evolution 4. We're getting Greninja instead of the previous Zygarde, which is a complete difference comparing the popularity of both, with Zygarde being middling and Greninja at the very top of possible popularity. Now, it is going to further facilitate or cause issues with the fact that the mismatch of demand and supply is going to be considerable. Now, we used to have issues like that already when you compare the allocation of Mega Evolution 3 versus 2, which was quite a couple of times lower, and then Mega Evolution 1, which was tens of times lower. So now we get into Mega Evolution 4, which might face similar issues if the trend continues, and you add onto that the potential hype around Greninja. So this might cause, again, Facebook group scalpers to be, very, very happy to see what's going to happen and this profit off of it. And then you add onto it the fact that the Pokemon company is probably preparing their printing production capacity for autumn's 30th anniversary, which would make sense in the context of the whole narrative, but this might hurt the product or people who would like to, pick up ME4 for a bit cheaper than, double the or triple the MSRP later. Ascended Heroes and its allocation in Europe. So there are some issues with that because there is some logistics lag with the EU being at the end of the supply chain. And while we see in the US some restocks of the product, by Costco, for example, in EU we here don't have such luxury, and this might further affect the prices. And while you might not want to get in on the product every time, when it's pre-ordered or upon release, the real answer might be that you just have to, because the alternative is going to be just more expensive. If you compare the prices of how it changes over time, while you might have picked it up from Card Horizon, below €90 for Elite Trainer Box. Well, if you just wait, the price might consolidate, at 120, and you will just be, paying more than you would have. And while you might not want to have to pre-order stuff like that, you might just have to, because as I said, the alternative is going to be much more expensive. The third topic is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and liquidity of the products. So vendors stock up on products if they can, and we do see a lot of negative press around Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it hasn't really changed much in any positive direction, at least. And there seems to be kind of this fatigue, but also saturation of the Universes Beyond idea overall, be it Spider-Man or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And this might be like a huge test of how much can the market really absorb, because vendors might just get left behind with a bunch of products they can't really offload. And what should they do about this? Well, they might feel burnt about this, and then in the upcoming Marvel era of Magic, which is about to happen, this summer, they might cautiously order less. But then you're playing a guessing game, because Marvel is kind of considerably more popular than stuff like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles would be. Not everybody is, a 80s, 90s kid who watched this cartoon as a child, and Marvel is a much more kind of, maybe not so evergreen, but contemporary franchise. So we might not be able to actually draw conclusions one-to-one between TMNT and Marvel, but people who sell these products for a living, all the vendors, might have to take some kind of guess on how to approach this, given the negative press right now. And a lot of people actually don't look at Teenage Mutants or Spider-Man as those franchises themselves, but they actually draw kind of broader conclusion, and they project that Universes Beyond in general are bad. So whatever franchise we would get next, however great that would be, we might get some negative press and hate ahead of time, just purely because it is Universes Beyond, and this narrative might just continue, and this might affect, again, people trying to get into the product, attend pre-releases or not. So this whole kind of experiment of Spider-Man into Mutant Ninja Turtles might dictate how sets that otherwise fit the whole world of Magic better, like Hobbit, they might just suffer. Even though the first Lord of the Rings was, I think, universally deemed a success among both the WotC, who releases the product, but also players who actually, I think, pretty universally liked Lord of the Rings. Riftbound Set 3 is releasing very soon, and with that, we got a couple of early spoilers, and one of them is Baron Nashor, which seems to break the rules of the game by introducing a third battlefield, but also mid-game, and we might need some rule clear-ups on what's that going to entail in practice, but also whether we're going to get any other cards that, seem to break the rules of the entire game, with, set 1 kind of establishing the foundation, getting the players in, all despite all the allocation issues and the price of cards. Then we got Spirit Forged, and now the game is flourishing, but also counter-flourishing with all the hate towards purple cards and kind of tournament logistics, and potentially necessitating bans already, with some leaks saying that there will be half a dozen cards banned. And now we're getting early spoilers of set 3. We already got a bunch of purple cards, which are pretty strong, and players are concerned whether the power creep is going to go so fast that this game is going to get ruined in a couple of sets. And, well, it's hard to blame them. And if you come from League of Legends, where your heroes get patched, nerfed, buffed, well, it's much simpler than in a physical TCG. And typically, erratas, which is the changes of how cards function without physically changing the text on them, are kind of really to be avoided, because you don't want a player to rip up their pack, look at a card, and they do as it says, and then someone says, well, actually this doesn't work like that because it's been errated. What do you mean errated? Well, yeah, it just doesn't work the way it says it does. And so the other alternative is basically bans, but bans, again, different opinions on that. Some people hate them because they lose the game pieces they have, or we reintroduce the issue of someone opens up a pack and has a card they literally cannot use, which is, undesirable. But on the other hand, this could be a way to regulate the game while being able to still experiment while designing the cards. Now, from the vendor perspective, it seems that the game is alive and well, with new sets coming around and with hype around every set being, even higher than the previous one, and more talks, and Twitter, is on fire talking about all these things. So I think that from both player and the vendor perspective, the game is alive and well and shows promise, but we will see how Riot approaches kind of moderating the whole game, be it from the design perspective, but also tournament, errata, ban type of perspective. And the last topic is Bandai and One Piece's kind of speculative washout, because when you look at the sets like OP13 or EBO3 and those kind of proclaimed future reprints, they affected the prices already. And if you look at the price of both OP13 and EBO3, you will see a steady decline of the prices, both on TCG and card market. So you might pick up those boxes earlier, which could be a result of the fact that those reprints were announced, or maybe some people who initially speculated on those products exited the market, seeing, well, okay, the scarcity isn't as big as we thought it would be. Increasing allocation, maybe I don't want to hoard as much product, which will, decline 30%, and then I'm just losing my ROI on the whole stock. Now, interestingly, if you look at some special rares from both of these sets, they seem to behave rather differently, because the ones from OP13 seem to slowly creep up in price, despite the steady decrease of the price of the boxes themselves and the, reacting to the reprint announcement and potential speculative, exit. However, EBO3 singles do seem to be going down, right? So there is some mismatch between how OP13, for example, and EBO3 singles react when one go up, one go down, even though the boxes of both go down, which is a very interesting situation. I'm curious if it's going to persist over time. And let me know what you think. Are you excited for Riftbound Set 3? Are you afraid of the bans or excited for more power? Are you waiting for Hobbit and Marvel as a Magic player, or you're done with Universes Beyond? Are you waiting for Greninja, or are you still in the need of Ascended Heroes because you live in the EU? Please let me know what you think, and until the next time, cheers.